We'll move on to the next speaker, Dr. Shruti Tara. Our chairman, ARC, Dr. Chidra Ramamurthy, has already introduced her. And Dr. Shruti will be talking on MMG in different scenarios. We just received a message from Dr. Namrata Sharma, our secretary of AIS. She is trying to log in, but she has some internet issues, so she'll join in later. In the meanwhile, we'll welcome Dr. Shruti Tara, please.
Is it visible, my screen?
Perfect.
So in the next few minutes, let's go through the mucous membrane grafting in different scenarios. It's basically used as a conjunctival replacement. In oculoplasty, we use them as for the socket reconstruction, like in this patient, or a fornix formation in this, the pre and the post-operative pictures you can see. So it's, as I said, it is a replacement for a conjunctiva, and it is for a symblepharon release, where it can be a pseudopterygium, repeat conjunctival surgeries, burns, or even sometimes a cosmetic reasons, like in this patient who has had a limbal dermoid excision done elsewhere and has developed a severe symblepharon of this kind, and it was released and a mucous membrane graft was placed, and later on a tattooing was done to give him an aesthetic appeal at the end of the surgery. And also in alkali burns, wherein there is a loss of fornices, both you can see in this patient, the upper and the lower fornices was completely lost, and the fornix formation was done, and now waiting for the corneal surgeries to happen. And in the Steven-Johnson syndrome, where there is a lid margin keratinization, and which can cause a severe abrasion on the cornea, so it can be replaced with a mucous membrane like this, and the patient can have a relatively white eye. And also in severe cicatricial entropion and following a large surface tumor resection. So other uses are as a protective layer over keratoprosthesis, and in GPC excision as a conjunctival replacement for a non-healing shield ulcer. So this is a small video on retrieval of the mucous membrane. So mucous membrane you can usually done on the lower lip. It can also be done on the buccal mucosa, depending on the amount of mucous membrane that you require. And in this video, you can see that there's a small modification done wherein a pocket is created. The only downside to this is you may not get a very thin mucous membrane in this, because it is a rather blind thing, but the advantage is that the bleeding doesn't spill out and a relatively clean field, and later on you can thin it as per your requirement, and it is fairly quick. So this, when you're not very particular of having a very thin mucous membrane, this technique can be used. So after marking, it's all basically blunt dissection under the mucosa. And the MMG is harvested. So this is one such patient where we used as a protective layer over the keratoprosthesis following a hot oil injury, where there was a blepharopathy was created by the plastic surgeons. The whole surface was reconstructed with mucous membrane, and this was of course taken with the buccal mucosa. So after the symblepharon was released, the corneal surgeons did a keratoprosthesis, and later the mucous membrane was harvested, and the entire fornix as well as the surface was reconstructed with this. With the buccal mucous membrane, and this is relatively thicker mucous membrane, and so it's folded and tucked onto the fornix, and a symblepharon ring can be later placed, and a small hole can be made at the center where the prosthesis is around, so giving a visual axis, opening up the visual axis. And later on, for some time, tarsorrhaphy is done and later released. So this is how he is at the end of the procedure. And so as a protective layer over the keratoprosthesis, they say the keratoprosthesis lasts long if covered with the mucous membrane. This is another patient with a non-healing shield ulcer with giant papillary conjunctivitis.
1 minute.
It's 7 o'clock.
And so the really large ones are removed using RF cautery. But then that doesn't usually give us a very smooth surface to place the the mucous membrane. So it is shaved using the radio frequency diamond tip probe. And here in this technique, you can see you can harvest a very thin mucous membrane graft by directly visualizing. This takes a little time though, but it is well worth the technique, well worth. So, and this can be further thinned and later replaced as a tarsal conjunctiva. The glue is used to secure it. And the end is, it's closed with the AMG. And this is how the patient is at the end of the procedure. So in the interest of time, I'll skip this. So also for the hot metal injury we used, the other documented indication is the conjunctival insufficiency after filtering glaucoma surgery. And the recent variation is the cultured oral mucosal epithelial transplantation, wherein bits of mucous membrane is taken and placed on the AMG and grown over it. So they've used it with good results, and this article really gives the good insight on that. So MMG is a suitable procedure for replacement of conjunctiva. It's easy accessibility, sufficient size, fast, inexpensive, and high stability, and fairly reliable. Thank you.
That was a very wonderful talk, Dr. Shruti. I have one simple question, and then I would want the expert panel to ask. There could be a technical challenge. Supposing you have an undersized graft or something, how would you deal with that?
So usually what we do is we have to measure how much of graft that you really require, and you have to oversize it by 30%. So it has a thing to shrink. And based on the size that you require, you can either harvest it from the lower lip or from the buccal mucosa. So if you want a larger one, I would take from the buccal. And if I want a fairly smaller one, I would take from the lower lip.
Yeah, just a comment and a question, Shruti. What do you do to the donor site after you harvest the graft? Do you cauterize,
yes,
leave it?
AMG.
Yeah, okay.
Cover it with AMG.
Yeah, because I think that technique varies from surgeon to surgeon. It also heals very well if you leave it bare. But what I have found of late is there's a huge amount of patient comfort. If you use fibrin glue, the first day the patient doesn't feel anything at all, and the healing is very fast. So I think that varies from, but nowhere do we undermine. If it's a large graft, if you undermine and suture it, you leave a lot of deformity, because that's something I've heard at some other meetings. Yeah.
Anybody on the expert panel, Dr. Usha, anybody has anything to add here? We will go on to the next speaker.
Dr. Milind, please.
Shruti, nice
Shruti,
demonstration.
I have a question for you. Do you routinely use AMG for the raw area in the buccal mucosa and the labial mucosa?
Yes, ma'am. We do.
That's an. And does it stay? Because when this patient starts chewing, you use glue, is it?
I use glue, but I also reinforce with 4 sutures on the 4 corners. And usually I give a Zyte gel after, before they have their food. So, it's relatively pain-free for the patients.
Dr. Milind, sir.
So I just wanted to check with Shruti if she debulks the mucous membrane on the back surface always, because some people believe that there are accessory salivary glands. So do you choose to take them or delete them?
It depends. If I want it very, very thin, then I would debulk. But then if I wouldn't mind that it being thick, like how we placed it over the keratoprosthesis, where I really am not too particular that it being too thick, then I would leave it like that.
Thank you.